Welcome back to the channel Lights on Literature. In today's video, we explore the Jacobean Age, the period that directly follows the Elizabethan era, covering approximately the years 1603 to 1625, the reign of King James I. This phase is not merely a continuation of the Renaissance, but a visible shift in psychology, cultural expression, and tonal texture. While the Elizabethan age was marked by optimism and national strength, the Jacobean period revealed anxiety, disintegration, political mistrust, and disillusionment. Historical and cultural context. The word Jacobean originates from the Latin Jacobus, meaning James. The period begins with King James I, son of Mary Queen of Scots. England in this period faced rising religious controversy and heightened factionalism. The Gunpowder Plot of 1605 becomes a central traumatic symbol of fear and conspiratorial tension. The court under James I was often accused of corruption, favoritism, and moral compromise. As a result, the literature of this time reflects cynicism rather than confidence. The Jacobean drama. Although Shakespeare continues to write in the Jacobean era, his tonal palette changes. The Shakespeare of this age is a Shakespeare of Macbeth, Measure for Measure, King Lear, and The Tempest. Plays that explore nihilism, cruelty, cosmic indifference, ethical paralysis, and collapse of authority. Other dramatists intensify the same mood. John Webster in The Duchess of Malfi and The White Devil, Thomas Middleton in The Revenger's Tragedy, Ben Jonson in Volpone and The Alchemist, and Cyril Turner in The Atheist Tragedy. These plays move away from the light romance and patriotic celebration of the 1590s and instead create a theatre that is filled with poison, political intrigue, sexual corruption, and revenge. The Jacobean stage is a stage of darkness, murder, brutality, and psychological violence, often performed under candlelight in indoor theatres like the Blackfriars. Prose and nonfiction of the age. Jacobean prose becomes sharper, aphoristic, more analytic, and more intellectually compressed. Francis Bacon emerges as the most important prose writer. His essays of truth, of studies, of revenge define a new style of concise philosophical communication. It is also the period of the King James Version of the Bible, 1611, one of the most powerful works of English prose ever produced. The King James Bible shapes the very rhythm, cadence, and rhetorical dignity of English language prose for centuries. Jacobean poetry. Poetry of this period divides into two major tendencies. On the one hand, there is a rise of the metaphysical poets, John Donne, George Herbert, and others, who transformed the English lyric by introducing philosophical argumentation, paradox, religious speculation, scientific imagery, sensational erotic metaphors, and dense conceits. On the other hand, the Cavalier poets such as Ben Jonson, Robert Herrick, and Richard Lovelace shape a more urbane, courtly verse that emphasizes classical discipline, refined wit, carpe diem philosophy, and aristocratic elegance. Thus, unlike the Elizabethan lyrical exuberance, Jacobean poetry becomes more intellectual, more morally complex, and more self-inquisitive. Significance of the Jacobean turn. The Jacobean age matters because it demonstrates the English Renaissance turning inward towards introspection, towards Baroque sensibilities, toward psychological darkness. The human figure changes. The Elizabethan man is the optimistic seeker, while the Jacobean man is the disillusioned analyst of corruption, a thinker wrestling with the consequences of power, violence, lust, and ambition. However, it is not a decline, but rather a deepening, a darker shadow of the Renaissance itself. Over to the conclusion. Therefore, the Jacobean Age, though short in duration, becomes one of the most intellectually intense chapters in English literary history. Its drama becomes blood-stained and philosophical. Its essays become scientifically structured. Its poetry becomes argumentative and metaphysical. The result is a literature that sees the world not as a place of heroic possibility, but as a theatre of corruption, deceit, moral ambiguity, and tragic insight. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more lectures on the history of English literature. If you want us to cover any topic, do write to us in the comment section. Thank you.